Hello, this is Dr. Do again. This video is outside of medicine, continuing with the book, The Dreams of Red Chamber. If you recall, I've introduced the main character, which is Bao Yu, the precious stone. That's what the precious jade. That's the main character, and I will talk about him at the last, and I have talked about the female characters around him. Two cousins from mother's side and from father's side, and also a stepsister, or the same father, different mother, that's the sister, and also his future maid and currently servant or a babysitter, took care of him, and also the manager of the garden of Grandview, which is where he lived. There are two gardens. One is the Rongguofu, which means the prosperity of the palace. The other one is peace of the palace. So these are the two families. They're from different brothers under the same grandma, but different. The fathers and the father's brother live next to each other. Two big mansions around that area of the city, and the garden of Grandview is where Bao Yu and his father, his mother, the grandmother, majority of the characters live in this side, and the other side, which is the mansion of peace, and the garden of Grandview is also called the mansion of prosperity. So this is about, in this Garden of Grandview, there's another important female, which is his mother, Mrs. Wang, from one of the four of most prestigious family, Wang's family. So this Mrs. Wang is very, of course, she had a background from the same level or even higher of family. She knows the regulations of living in this manage in this garden, and she served mother-in-law very well, the grandmother, but they held a totally different opinion in terms of the life, the view of life, in terms of the future marriage of this Bao Yu, and in terms of how to join the society, how to be alongside of Bao Yu's father, which is the official in the emperor's court. And remember, this Mrs. Wang, her daughter was one of the concubines of the emperor. She held her own opinion in terms of Bao Yu's marriage. This is the opposite from the grandmother and from against the Bao Yu's will, but she determined, and she's holding the wheel of gear, the direction going on to make sure that the direction is under her command. So this is about this woman. So she had, first of all, she had her niece, her brother's daughter, which is Xifeng, the manager of the garden. And secondly, she had another very close person, definitely trustworthy to her, is the future maid of Bao Yu, Xiren. The flower, remember, last name is Flower, first name is attacking people, so Flower attacking people, that's really the meaning of the name. As I said, a lot of characters with the name has deeply meanings adapted from the old poem. So this is one of typical name from the old poem and have deep meaning and fit the character perfectly. So this Mrs. Wang had this Xiren around her, so knew everything, exactly what happened to Bao Yu. So make sure no deviation from her view. So this is the second part about her. And she also served the grandmother, looks like very well, because that's the mother-in-law, that's the most important people. She showed her respect, at least in the grandmother, so everybody's eyes. She did this, but the grandmother knew it. I'm going to talk about grandmother next time. So this is Mrs. Wang, the mother of Bao Yu. I think it's the main master of the garden, because usually the man, it's just like the palace of emperor. The emperor is working in the court, working with the officials, and the palace of dwelling place managed by the first empress, or with assistance from the concubines or other servants. It's the same idea. So this Mrs. Wang is the master of this garden, truly the master of this garden, because her husband is the one, really the man in this garden and working the emperor's court. So she, at the same time, holding her son, make sure the son did well, at the same time try to spoil him, and also prevent the spoil from the grandmother. So her role is not that easy, not that simple, and her opinion weighed pretty much everything in terms of managing this garden. And how did she do this to serve the grandma? She's the mother of concubine. She had a title, and she had Bao Yu, which is called the heart of the grandma, or the center of the garden, or the center of this Jia's family. So she is, at the same time, she needs to manage this Xi Feng, who is the manager of the garden. So she has to be very, have many eyes. She had many eyes, and she had different level of the eyes. In addition to Xi Feng Xiren, she had some servant who had served the garden for a long time, directly contact her with all the informations. So she's really kind of seeing the multiple meridians, 8 directions, and she's quite deep. According to the novel, she's not the one that talk all the time. Not like Xi Feng is the one who has to talk all the time to please the grand mother-in-law, the mother-in-law, and also the cousin Bao Yu, who is the center, and the 2 cousins of the 2 women who will not decide which one is going to marry Bao Yu. So she has to talk all the time. But this Mrs. Wang, not a lot of words, not a lot of talking. Majority are the reasoning, the thoughts from the novel. So this is about this Mrs. Wang, Bao Yu's mother. I really do not have much to say, but you have to read it to catch the sense and to think about her role in this garden. Very important, really the wheel holder for the directions of the garden, the falling later on, and also Bao Yu's marriage. She wants to make sure Bao Yu married to her sister's daughter, not her husband's sister's daughter, Dai Yu. So this is, everything's in her hand. And the consequence, of course, is the falling of the garden, because after Bao Yu, the second day after Bao Yu married the Bao Chai, her daughter, who served the emperor as a concubine, mysteriously died. And also the garden just fell, and Bao Yu became a monk, Dai Yu died, and Bao Chai and Xiren married the other common families. So this is, and also Xi Feng died later on. So this is this woman is so critical, but I think that's probably the fate, as prophecy from that monk at the beginning of the book. So I'm going to stop here. If you're interested, please search. You can search it, Mrs. Wang, in this Dream of Red Chamber. You will find a lot of interesting information. And thank you for watching. I will see you next time.